fun. So Halloween is coming up very soon, and my parents are actually going to come into town for Halloween. They've been doing that the last couple of years, ever since we had Brendan, since it's always fun to see little kids on Halloween. They've flown out and gone out trick-or-treating with him. So he was born in July, and obviously his first Halloween he was only 3 months old, so we didn't do anything with him on Halloween. We bought him a little onesie, a little black onesie that said "Mummy loves me," and we propped him up on the floor and took some pictures, and that was Halloween for his first year. And then the next year we didn't do anything either. He was only a year old. He wasn't quite old enough to go trick-or-treating, although we did buy him a little pumpkin. I called it the pumpkin bath mat costume, because I don't know if you've seen, like maybe you've seen in the stores and stuff, these costumes, and they had like the little soft kind of fabric nubs that kind of stick out all over the place. But we didn't go anywhere, we just bought him the costume for fun. And when he was 2, we had a Pooh Bear costume, but we still have, it was a head-to-toe Pooh Bear costume, and it was the one where like his face was there and the Pooh head kind of comes up over top. So we went around the neighborhood just for a little while and took him trick-or-treating in that. And that was funny because it was really, really hot. You know, in Southern California, even in late October, it's cool, but it's not cold. So by the time he took this thing off, he was drenched, because it was, like I said, it was head to toe and it was furry, and I mean, it was just like a full-on Pooh Bear costume with a big like padded fat stomach and all of that. So that's when he was 2. That was the first time we actually took him out trick-or-treating. And then last year we actually vlogged about it. It was one of our really early vlogs where he had a green and black spider, furry, again, not quite head to toe. It was another one of the pullover things with the armholes, but it was a spider. Stand up, let's use this as a spider.
I need to go outside.
Let's go. We found a really cool neighborhood near here. It was one of those neighborhoods where everybody just goes like all out for Halloween, and everybody, you know, just decks their house out, and there's just things everywhere, and there are ghosts flying through the air and creatures coming out of the ground. So I think we're gonna probably do something like that again this year. I think Brendan actually wants to be that spider again. He wants to wear that same costume again. And at first, about, I don't know, several months ago, he wanted to be an orange scorpion. He was very specific, he wanted to be an orange scorpion. I was like, well, I'm not really sure if we're gonna be able to find an orange scorpion costume. So he, you know, found his old spider costume and said he wants to wear it again, and it still fits because it was pretty big on him last year. So I think he's just gonna be the spider again. But every year, except for the Mummy Loves Me onesie, every year we've actually bought him a full, like an actual costume rather than just making something. I feel like when I was a kid, like my brother and I, we would often just have costumes sort of made out of things that we found around the house. Like one year I was actually, because I took horseback riding lessons, and I went as a horseback rider. I wore like my own riding helmet and some coat that resembled a riding jacket that I found in a closet somewhere, and like my own riding boots. Like that was my costume, was something that I would just put on like, you know, once a week all year round. One year I was a ballerina, and my friend just had like a little leotard tutu thing that I just borrowed from her. Like we didn't go out and buy a big fancy costume. I think my most creative Halloween costume, which I take 0 credit for, I was probably actually about Brendan's age. I wanted to be, somehow I got into my head that I wanted to be a chicken. And it's just one of those things, you know, a kid like gets something into his or her head. It's just like he wants this particular thing. And I really just wanted to be a chicken. And my grandfather, who was very artistic and very good at putting stuff together, just devised this entire chicken costume for me. I think it was made out of cardboard. There was a whole like headpiece, and then like a body kind of stuck out in the front and the back, and then I kind of stood in the middle of it. And it was covered in, I want to say, honestly, I can't even remember now if it was red plastic cutout feathers or actual feathers. And then I had little, they're probably, I'm guessing, construction paper cutout feet that went on top of my shoes. And it was pretty elaborate. Like it was a project that my grandfather just undertook. And I remember him sitting in the living room of his house, just spread out on the floor, like making this costume. And I remember later seeing pictures, and there was like my preschool had like a little Halloween parade where, you know, we all dressed up and wore our costumes around. The kid standing next to me was a ghost. I think he was literally just had like a sheet over his head, and it was all like cockeyed, and he was just kind of standing there with this like lopsided sheet. And I was sitting there in this like elaborate chicken costume, and you know, it's just true like work of art that my grandfather had put together. So that was pretty funny. That was definitely one of my more you know, over-the-top costumes. And so I'm curious, you all that go trick-or-treating or went trick-or-treating, how old you were when you stopped trick-or-treating? Because I'm guessing I probably have you beat, because I went trick-or-treating until I was 15 years old. Maybe somebody went longer, I don't know. If you've beaten me, then good. I'm not like the oldest trick-or-treater out there, but I just had like, I just was obsessed with candy. Like I had the biggest sweet tooth, and you know, so each year that you could just go out and run around and get free candy was, you know, I was like, why would you give that up? But then of course, as you get older, you can cover more ground. You know, as you're a little kid, you have to stay with your parents and you walk around and you just have short little legs, and you can't, you know, you go up and down, you know, 5 or 6 streets and you're done. But by the time you're 15 years old, not only was I 15, but I ran track, so I could run. my friend and I went out and we would just like run between these houses, and we covered like, I don't know, 2 or 3 entire neighborhoods. And I remember coming home and I had just the absolute biggest pile of candy I could imagine. I poured it out and it was literally just like, I can't even, I'm trying to like show it here in the frame. It doesn't fit. Like, I mean, there's no perspective here. But anyway, it was massive. And then my brother came home, because I guess it was probably his last year trick-or-treating. He didn't have a sweet tooth, he didn't really care. He gave me like half of his candy. He's like, I don't want this here. And so my pile got even bigger, and it was so awesome. So I absolutely loved Halloween. Obviously I had a hard time letting it go since I went until I was 15, which was really quite sad when you're out there running around with like toddlers in little costumes. But hey, I raked in that candy. I was eating that stuff until like Christmas. There was so much of it. What we would always do is we'd get the candy home and we would separate it all out into piles. We would organize. So like all the Snickers bars would go together, all the Milky Ways would go together, all the peanut butter cups would go together. So you could really get like, you could sort of take inventory of what you have. And then there'd always be the leftover stuff in the bottom of the bag. It was kind of like the candy you didn't want, you know, just kind of the lame candy. I remember one year I was out walking. It was the day after Halloween. It was November 1st, and I was walking through my neighborhood, and in the grass in somebody's yard, there was a whole bunch of those Mary Janes. I don't know if you ever had those or know what they are. They're like these very odd looking, chewy, I guess, chewy candies. They're just sort of bite-sized chewy candies, but they're kind of this like, yeah, kind of a mustard yellow color. I'm trying to remember even what flavor they are. When I was older, I actually tried them, and they're pretty good. They're not so bad, but as a kid, I was always just really turned off by the color of them. They just didn't look appetizing, and the wrapper didn't look, it had this very old-fashioned look to it. It just wasn't something that sort of spoke to children. You know, it definitely seemed like kind of maybe an older person's candy. But I remember walking through my neighborhood, and there was in the yard, somebody had like thrown a handful of Mary Janes, and they were just like sitting there in the grass. And it wasn't me, I swear it wasn't me, but somebody else. I remember looking down like, oh, that person didn't like Mary Janes either, because they just had chucked him into the grass. Halloween was always just a really fun holiday for me growing up, and it was also good because it was like Halloween, and then just a few weeks later was Thanksgiving, and then just a few weeks later was Christmas. So it was sort of the kickoff to the whole holiday season at the end of the year, so that made it extra cool. We still haven't gotten our pumpkins. We went to the pumpkin patch like a couple of weeks ago, but we still haven't gotten our actual pumpkins. We didn't buy them at the pumpkin patch because they were really, really expensive. They were much cheaper at the store, so we just put off buying them, and we still haven't done it yet. So I think we're gonna go out and do that this weekend. And so hopefully we'll have a cool pumpkin to carve. And my parents are coming in next Friday, and they will be here through Halloween, so they'll be able to go see Brendan trick or treat. So that'll be cool. We'll have some fun stuff coming up in the vlog, some more Halloween based stuff, because Halloween is awesome. And so that's it. Thanks so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you next time.